Well, Jake Paul's attorney says he was out of state and not at his Calabasas home during that raid today. The FBI says they're investigating allegations of criminal acts. Today, YouTube star Jake Paul is making headlines after an FBI raid at his home in Calabasas. Sky 5 was over the scene Wednesday morning as federal agents entered Paul's home in a gated community off Mulholland Highway. 24 feds, some in tactical gear, could be seen carrying evidence from the property, including several firearms. After the search, a SWAT team was seen leaving in a procession of law enforcement vehicles.
The pivot took place at that point. The transition from combatant to operator, from punches to pressure, from narrative control to competition. Additionally, control only functions when everyone else remains silent. Thus, statements tightened, threats flew, and everyone pretended that this was normal. However, business typically doesn't launch a raid after a knockdown. And I have a bridge to sell you if you believe that timing is arbitrary. Because the images shift from arenas to overhead shots, from gloves to gates, in a matter of days. Additionally, the story ceases to be entertaining when federal jackets start to emerge. And that's when even devoted supporters go sick to their stomachs because the phrase criminal acts doesn't go well with brand slogans. Additionally, more people begin to murmur that someone attempted to flee. The louder the denial. Indeed, the rumor won't die for a cause. I keep returning to the same loop of nightmares.
At any point did you start to take your foot off the gas just a little bit because you noticed he was tiring out?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a bit. You know, I wanted to give the fans a show, but I didn't want to hurt someone that didn't need to be hurt.
Did you carry Mike?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Yeah, like there was a point where, you know, I was just like, okay, he's not really engaging back. And so I don't know if he's tired or whatever. And I could just tell, you know, his age was showing a little bit. And I just have so much respect for him. And that like violence war thing between us, like after he slapped me, I wanted to, you know, be aggressive and take him down and knock him out and all that stuff. But that kind of went away as the rounds went on.
Real pros, demolition, the mismatches, the choreography, the testing dodges, the shattered jaw, the flexing of legal muscles, the abrupt silence, and now the search. Because each component is undeniable on its own, but when combined, they resemble a map, and maps typically lead to unpleasant places. We haven't yet arrived at the worst room, in my opinion, not even near, because careers don't end well when systems fail. This isn't over, and don't allow anyone tell you that. They fall apart. Unraveling also involves additional names, leaks, and events that change people's perceptions of the past 5 years. And there's still too much smoke, too many locked lips, and too much missing as of right now. Additionally, the next update can appear at any moment and completely change the situation. Remain vigilant. Something is about to explode up. You've tickets. This culminates in a real-time career, flatlining, a federal raid, and a broken jaw. We now go back in time to show how the entire situation exploded from rumors to warrants in an instant, as none of this was anticipated to occur in this manner. And the story is in how quickly it collapsed. The type that prompts you to dump your phone and declare, no, this can't be true, because there isn't a belt or a highlight in the finished picture. It's a name that sounds past tense, sirens, and quiet. Additionally, you will lose the moment if you blink now. Once more, everything turns upside down. Given the disparity in weight, that battle was undoubtedly ridiculous. There is a disparity. In weight, the Braun Bomber is the only individual I know who can perform such a weight differential. This is going
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson was 100% scripted. Mike Tyson repeatedly bit his boxing glove throughout the fight. When fights are scripted, fighters do weird gestures to signal that they're hurt. It's very possible Mike Tyson was biting on his glove to tell Jake Paul to calm down. Now, if that's not enough proof that this fight was scripted, in the middle of the fight, Mike Tyson is literally talking to Jake Paul while they are clinching.
Going to be the first time we see Paul fight an active fighter. We've seen Mike Tyson, who was entertaining and cute. You know what I mean? It's fun and games and stuff. But now you're dealing with a real professional. So go back to the day the loss landed, like a meteor, and everyone pretended it was just another fight night because the knockout wasn't shock. It was the emotion that followed. That chilly feeling that occurs when supporters begin to agree instead of disagree. That uncomfortable moment when snark transforms into curiosity and inquiry becomes fear. Because the questions don't go away, instead they grow, and a demolition appears too tidy and the justifications don't work. At that point, you are unaware that the ground is shifting beneath your feet. When the machine keeps winning, it's easy to clown conspiracies. So at first, people scoffed at the stories, and you probably did too. However, the patterns persisted. The time didn't feel right. The actions seemed strange. You start asking yourself a risky question when all of a sudden you're analyzing replays for tells rather than punches. What if there was no turmoil at all? What if it walked come in? Because the collapse of control is more audible than any disturbance, and this was quickly becoming noisy. Conversation or consensus regarding the necessity of bringing the fight into this round. He must be carried 4x rounds. To get it into the 5th, 6th, or whatever, you must contribute. No way at all. After all, if you examine a few of the right hands that JJ missed the first several shots, and if they had landed, they would have done the identical damage to Jake's jaw. Jake also did a great job avoiding them. AJ isn't the type of guy who will come out like a locomotive, so I always claimed before a bout that he would simply start swinging away. He decided to take his time, and he did just that. You know, Anthony went through a few more rounds in the battle than was expected. However, it seems like even now, it's yeah, it was definitely a fix. A guy commented on one of my postings today, saying, yeah, it was definitely a fix. I respond, do you know that he's broken his jaw in 2 places? This is where things become awkward because skepticism didn't sneak in. It ran. And when it did, it dragged leaks, breakdowns, receipts, and whispers that lined up too well to ignore. Moreover, the curiosity gap escalates into paranoia when something foretells reality before it actually occurs because either someone was extremely fortunate or someone knew something. And who else knew what someone did? And as you listen to this, who is lying? Predictions matched, situations, wariness matched rounds, and outcomes matched murmurs. So when the so-called script hit the timeline, everything changed from argument to danger. Additionally, despite your want to ignore it, your brain wouldn't allow you to, as coincidence doesn't typically reoccur in a rhythmic manner. And choreography is rhythm. Additionally, the combination of gambling and dance creates a boundary that no one wants to cross. However, someone may have already done so. Indeed, that's where the cold starts to set in. The FBI has raided Jake Paul's mansion in California. Numerous news outlets cover the story. As you can see, this aerial video shows uniformed agents outside his Calabasas home. The lawyer assured Reuters that he would assist the government probe. What his post-boxing career will look like. I have a plan since people think I use steroids and all this I believe it's strange. It seems like the only justification they can think of is that the bouts were rigged. Jake Paul uses steroids. I want to shut people up. So after boxing, I'm going to go through a steroid cycle to show them what Jake Paul really looks like on steroids. Watch the ring once more, and let me know if it seems regular because normal fights don't include coded gestures, whispered clinches, or referees who sound like they're waiting for a scene change. Perhaps you're thinking that I'm reaching, but that doesn't explain why the same oddity persists when the lights are at their brightest. And I continue to believe that there's still don't know one detail. One that brings everything into sharp focus. And it's on its way. The actual test, then arrive, the one you are unable to style your way out of. The instance in which pedigree enters without asking permission, because the illusion must either level up or blow up when a real champion enters the ropes. Furthermore, there was no competitive strain that followed. Exposure was the cause. Because a murderer's patience does not equate to mercy. It's a measurement. And stories broke and bones broke as the measurement came to a conclusion. Throughout Jake Paul's career, there has never once been any discussion about the fight being anything other than a legitimate one with the same circumstances as any professional fight. And that's precisely this is also true for the Anthony Joshua bout. The idea that anybody would believe such is simply astounding. Anthony Joshua had previously stated that it would be disappointing and a failure if he did not defeat him in the opening round. As fight night and, of course, the aftermath approached, the storyline shifted. They were quite certain that it would take max 2 rounds to be eliminated, and I can see why. Paul Jake. This is the point at which the money pushes the volume to its highest point. Since the sport ceases to be a sport once bets start to stack, lines start to change, and millions of people depend on the result. Every strange event suddenly becomes significant as it turns into a legal maze. Every nod and wink appears to be radioactive. Ask yourself why the temperature changed overnight if you're still convinced that this is insignificant. Why did everyone start picking words so carefully all of a sudden, as if they were aware that something was going to break? The defense phase was telling, not because it persuaded anyone, but rather because it sounded afraid and used investigations as evidence rather than flatly rejecting the premise. That is, claiming you didn't loot the bank because the police would have caught you. And that reasoning is only valid until the sirens really appear. And the room becomes silent when they do. And right now, that silence is speaking a lot. This is a section that people are glancing over, and they ought not to. The body doesn't mislead as brands do because it can grow suddenly without losing speed and recuperate without Selective testing decisions are also more than rumors. They are stacking red flags. Additionally, you invite shadows when you stay away from the strictest lights. Additionally, I keep hearing that there is one medical information that has been kept under wraps that could alter everyone's perception of the past year. Simply wait. Tell me what you think about Jake and AJ going 6 rounds. We didn't anticipate that it would go to 6 rounds, so it was excellent that he accomplished that. We anticipated that it would go to 2. Thus, Jake Paul's accomplishment is that he made 6 rounds. What particularly stood out to you throughout the altercation? Yes? Really? Who was more fit? Because Joshua was sprinting around the ring, I felt that he was in better form than, say, Jake Paul, and it drains a lot of energy, particularly if you're not accustomed to it. It was more than simply a punch when the knockdown came. It was a decision. Because uncertainty is what gives spin its breath, dominance eliminates it. Without it, the truth quickly suffocates you. So quickly, that damage must be acknowledged by even the most resilient persona. Actual harm. The kind that requires time and surgery. And justifications. Furthermore, legacies cannot be healed by excuses. They simply keep the clock running while something else gains traction in the background. From a human standpoint, I almost feel sorry for Jake Paul because he created something enormous and then put too much faith in it. Furthermore, unbridled trust becomes entitlement, and entitlement doesn't prepare you for a world that abruptly stops applauding. You can only hear your own footsteps pacing an empty room when the applause fades. If you're wondering if he can return, the answer is that anyone can. In theory, however, the inquiry is returned as what? A warrior? An advocate? A warning? Because every action is evaluated via suspicion once credibility is compromised. Moreover, in a sport where respect is valued highly, that is a cruel way to live. I don't believe Anthony Joshua used just his right hand to finish Jake Paul. I believe he revealed a gap that cannot be filled with marketing between true boxing and entertainment boxing. And no matter how many tweaks or thumbnails you toss at them, they won't forget that gap once they see it clearly. Everything is stiff and halted right now. Like the air before another blow is delivered. And since the direction is obvious, it doesn't really matter if that punch is financial, legal, or reputational. Jake Paul is no longer in the lead. Furthermore, momentum is the one thing you cannot regain through legal means. Yes, I'm keeping a careful eye on this. Not because I want someone to fail, but because events like this redefine eras and the Jake Paul experiment. Whether or not there is an indictment or an apology, has already permanently altered combat sports. Not only that, but the aftershocks are still rolling through. I can't stop thinking about the individual, Jake Paul. Not the brand, not the thumbnail, not the figures, but the genuine person who, at some point, concluded that it was simpler to distort reality than to honor it. Because you don't unintentionally wake up one day to find federal officials outside your fence. And anybody they are lying to themselves if they think this is merely bad luck. Because these kinds of patterns don't develop unless decisions are made repeatedly, arrogantly, confidently, and with the conviction that the system won't ever turn on you. And yes, I will mention names, since it is now cowardly to hide behind ambiguity _ Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, Nikisa Badarian, Alex Spiro, Eddie Hearn, and Anthony Joshua. These are not rumor mill NPCs, these are actual individuals, with actual motivations. Additionally, someone always overplays their hand when incentives clash with money and ego. Additionally, it seems as though Jake had an overly strong belief in his own myth. Why Anthony Joshua is so important in this whole disaster is a question that keeps coming up. And the fact that Joshua is more than simply a boxer indicates to me that some fans still don't understand. He is a variable under control. He is the result of eliminating narrative training. Wheels. And the illusion remained intact as soon as he intervened and treated Jake Paul like any other adversary. It broke. Additionally, broken objects often cut everyone in their path. Joshua wasn't there to comply, in my opinion, not for a second, since warriors, like AJ, don't use charity rounds to establish their legacy. If Eddie Hearn came across as defensive afterwards, it's since no one knows optics better than promoters, even if it's legitimate. The image of your boxer shattering another man's jaw while the internet yells fix is a PR nightmare. You can sense how poisonous the atmosphere has grown just by looking at that tension. Mike Tyson's name continues to loom over this like an unquiet ghost, because that fight altered the atmosphere, regardless of whether you believe he was scripted, dragged, worn out, elderly, or merely there for the bag, forever. You've already lost something you can never get back. once fans begin rewatching fights like murder scenes rather than sporting highlights. Have faith. And more quickly than any influencer I've ever seen, Jake Paul destroyed that trust. Let's be honest about the PID conversation as well, since people tend to avoid it as if it were rude. However, civility is not the foundation of combat sports. They harm and run on bodies. And when a fighter talks loudly about being clean while gaining mass, maintaining speed, healing quickly, and avoiding the most difficult tests, although it doesn't establish guilt, it raises suspicions, and suspicions are fuel when everything else is already on fire. Logan Paul's involvement in this is more significant than most people realize, since Logan has spent years meticulously and systematically rebuilding his reputation brick by brick, and the possibility that his brother's choices could cause heat to return it must be terrible to arrive at his door. Furthermore, family and business are usually explosive when the money starts to shake, so you're foolish if you don't believe that friction occurs behind closed doors. I keep coming back to Nikisa Badaria's interviews because it seems like someone is arguing the letter of the law while ignoring the atmosphere of the room. Vibes matter, especially when fans, fighters, and regulators are all eyeing the same product, because you can be both culturally finished and legally clean at the same time. And it's possible that Jake Paul is learning that in the most difficult way. Feasible. Additionally, some boxing media outlets have a strange silence that bothers me. When the questions become pointed, the same folks who are eager to pay checks and promote events suddenly become silent. Silence is also not neutral. Being silent is a way to protect oneself. It also raises the question of who knew what and when, and who is hoping that their ancient books will never be seen again. I enjoy combat sports too much to pretend otherwise. Therefore, I will state that I am a fan, because boxing already has credibility issues. This whole thing feels like seeing a sport I care about be used and discarded. Furthermore, the criticism was always going to be severe when a YouTuber turned fighter became the face of spectacle over content, especially if reality responded with attention. It's important to note that I believe Jake Paul is ambitious, rather than malevolent. He is surrounded by individuals who profit from telling him he is unstoppable, and he is obsessed with momentum. And because you cease planning for consequences when you stop hearing no. That combination has destroyed more intelligent men than him. Consequences also don't announce themselves in a courteous manner. Regardless of what happens next in terms of the law, the FBI raid is psychologically irreversible because you can spin losses, injuries, and even scandals, but you can't unsee agents entering your home with evidence. And after watching that video, every sponsor, partner, and potential rival recalculates, and careers silently perish in recalculation. Despite everything, Anthony Joshua most likely gets a good night's sleep, in contrast to Jake Paul, who is forced to defend his entire path. At the same time, he showed up, battled, won, and then departed. Additionally, you can't create tomorrow while debating yesterday, and the sport continues whether are you prepared or not. I'm not afraid that this will end. It is the notion that it is an investigation spread because they don't accelerate. Additionally, dissemination results in an increase in phones, emails, and awkward discussions. And this moves from influencer scandal to industry reckoning if even one unexpected name appears. Additionally, boxing has never managed judos effectively. I can't help but think that a whole different story is just one leak away. Something that reframes the matchmaker, the Tyson bout, and the controversy surrounding Fury. When that occurs, people will act as though they've always known. They had suspicions all along. It always made them feel strange. However, most are still hedging as of right now.